Tonight, the man responsible for the Yonge Street van attack is sentenced.
It's very difficult to be saying those words in front of him, but it was necessary.
Friends and families of the victims address the killer in a Toronto courtroom before the sentence is handed down. Plus, the search for a missing boy in Lindsay, Ontario ends in tragedy. The 11-year-old found dead in the Scugog River a day after being reported missing. And
I'm tired. I'm drained, mentally and physically.
Residents of a Toronto community housing complex are left wondering what's next after being forced to move out immediately due to unsafe conditions. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A judge has sentenced Alec Manassian to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Manassian is responsible for carrying out the Yonge Street van attack in 2018, killing 10 people. An 11th victim died last year from her injuries. Loved ones of the victims had the chance to address the killer in a Toronto courtroom today before the sentence was handed down. Ali Chiasson has more.
In court, we heard about paranoia, addictions, and post-traumatic stress people developed in the aftermath of the van attack.
It's always present. It's always ready to erupt.
Charlene Mackay tried to help in the carnage by calling the police. She lives with night terrors and panic attacks.
Just a color. One of the victims had a very bright jacket tied around her waist, and that color always reminds me of her.
Tanya Kuzos was another civilian first responder that day, and she experiences the same kind of flashbacks.
It was a huge domino effect. It definitely, after 4 years, still is very difficult for people that were involved.
There was this huge weight that was lifted from my shoulders.
For some, expressing themselves felt cathartic, like Michelle Kelman, who was on a coffee break with her friend and colleague Andrea Braddon, who was struck and killed.
I was with her that day as well, so I felt it was my obligation to take the time and speak on her behalf. He's in there today. It's very difficult to be saying those words in front of him, but it was necessary.
Everyone who spoke today, including people living with life-altering injuries and family members of those who died, did so in front of the convicted killer. Alec Manassian sat staring blankly ahead. Some did their best to ignore him, but Anne-Marie D'Amico's mother spoke directly to him. Quote, "You took my baby girl away from me. She was healthy, vibrant, in the prime of her life." Anne-Marie D'Amico was 30 years old. Referring to what Manassian told a psychiatrist about why he committed the van attack, she said, quote, "You said you felt alone and isolated. Now you are alone and isolated."
After an entire day of heart-wrenching stories, Justice Anne Malloy handed down Alec Manassian's sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Now, the Crown sought consecutive life sentences in this case, one for each of the people who he killed, but that was deemed unconstitutional in Canada by the Supreme Court. That came as a huge disappointment to a lot of the victims' family members. And to give you a sense of that, I want to say a quote from Charlene Mackay, one of the first people who spoke today. She says, quote, "I feel the accused should be in custody for the remainder of his life, as I will forever be in the custody of his crime." Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The search for a missing boy in Lindsay, Ontario came to a tragic end today. Police found the body of 11-year-old Draven Graham, who lives with autism, in the Scugog River after almost 24 hours of searching. Greg Ross spent the day in the community and has more.
Devastating news for the family and devastating news for this entire community. Police confirming it to us today that they have recovered the body of 11-year-old Draven Graham here in the Scugog River behind me. They say they found his body at about 3:30 this afternoon, which is just about 24 hours after he went missing yesterday. Apparently, he wandered away from his house. He wasn't wearing any shoes at the time. Police say that Graham had autism with very limited verbal skills, and of course he was not supposed to leave his home unsupervised. Police say that they were notified right away, and very quickly they were able to uncover surveillance footage that showed Graham walking in the area not far from where I am right now, which is near Rivera Park that runs along the Scugog River, and that's why police set up a command post here. It launched a massive search and rescue operation. There were dozens of volunteers from the area who came down to help with that search and rescue. They searched through the night last night and all day today. We talked to a number of those volunteers, some of them telling us that they drove an hour to be here to help with this. People who live in the area were also put on high alert, asked to search their properties. We saw people out looking for anything suspicious on their properties today, but in the end, it was the Kawartha Lakes Police Underwater Search and Recovery Unit who found Draven Graham's body in the Scugog River this afternoon. And of course, this is not the outcome that this family was hoping for. This is not the outcome that this community was hoping for. Greg Ross, CBC News, Lindsay.
All remaining residents of a Toronto public housing complex are being ordered to leave due to unsafe conditions. This comes after a concrete ceiling collapsed on a tenant last month. An inspection found the same fault in other homes in Swansea Mews, a complex just west of High Park. As Lisa Shing reports, the news is hitting many residents hard.
I'm so tired.
It's the last thing residents of Swansea Mews wanted to hear, that all 420 of them have to leave their homes indefinitely.
I'm tired. I'm drained, mentally and physically. I'm already drained. We haven't been sleeping for weeks.
After part of a bedroom ceiling collapsed in one unit and seriously injured a woman late last month, Toronto Community Housing learned the issue was more widespread than they thought. The slabs used to build the complex posed an immediate danger, leading them to issue these notices that states people have to move out. A look through Helena Zandre's unit gives an idea of the extent of the problem.
How can I explain to my 5-year-old he cannot sit at the table and eat normally like any other children?
The head of TCH says it's trying to secure more temporary housing, like at universities and colleges and hotels, as well as long-term options.
Not only do we recognize how incredibly disruptive and unsettling this situation is to them, we've been on site as often as possible to ensure that we are listening to our tenants and hearing the concerns that are coming directly from them.
Residents say they don't want to be living in unsafe conditions here, but they're concerned about a lack of communication from Toronto Community Housing, and what they tell me is a lack of a plan to support their move.
They didn't give me any information what's going on. I still don't know anything.
We're being told that we're ungrateful when all we want is answers. We don't know where we're going. They don't have any answers for where we're going. We have small children.
It's heartbreaking.
Marcel Wilson lived in Swansea Mews for 20 years and is now head of community organization, the One by One movement.
First, we have to start with getting them the proper help that they need, and they're not asking for much, just to be treated as humans.
Especially since there's no timeline as to when they'll be able to return. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
A motorcyclist was killed tonight in a collision near Shepard Avenue and Sentinel Road. It comes just as Toronto police kick off a week-long traffic campaign geared at keeping motorcyclists safe.
Everybody out there, whether you're on a motorcycle, you're in a car, you're in a truck, it's equally important to share the road with one another, to make direct eye contact, to signal your intentions, and basically to follow the rules of the road.
2 motorcyclists have been killed in the city so far this year, but last year, 12 motorcyclists died on the roads, accounting for about 20% of road fatalities in 2021. Police add crashes involving motorcycles increased by almost 30% in April and May this year compared to the same time period last year. Officers will target driving behaviors known to cause injuries, such as speeding, driving aggressively, distracted driving, and driving while impaired. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, a cloudy day, but a dry one with pretty comfortable temperatures.
Yeah, and that's really important there, Kelda, is how comfortable not only the temperatures, but I mean, just the way the air feels too, because our dew points aren't very high. So this is still nice territory and it carries on into tomorrow, although it will be warmer. But I do just want to point out some of the heat that we're seeing back to the southwest of us through the Midwestern U.S. And on the weekend, that was in the desert Southwest. I mean, Phoenix was up to 113 degrees there. So we're talking about some extreme heat. It will keep moving eastward and we will will begin to feel the impact in southwestern Ontario, even with humidity coming up too about Wednesday and then towards the GTA for Thursday. Tonight, where's the activity? It's in southwestern Ontario and kind of staying there in terms of some of the thunderstorm activity, the gusty winds, lightning strikes, most of it through the overnight hours, and then you'll be a little slow to clear there, but a very fair day for the GTA and drier conditions tonight and into tomorrow. So Tuesday looks good. It takes a little longer to get there, but it does look good for the southwest as well once you get through the rockin' and rollin' tonight. 15, the low tonight, tomorrow 26, certainly warmer than today into Toronto for Tuesday, but that real heat that's coming, Kelda, I'll have more on that coming up.
Thanks so much, Colette. CBC News has learned the federal government will announce tomorrow an end to vaccine mandates for domestic travel on planes and trains, as well as outbound international travel. The mandates have been in effect since last October. The government has been under pressure to relax some public health measures in response to delays and long lineups at airports. The Ontario Liberals are trying to figure out what to do next after suffering back-to-back election disasters. Some are calling for a re-evaluation of what the party stands for before rushing into a leadership race. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the story.
Now, to be clear, this isn't the outcome that we had hoped for.
That's putting it mildly. Stephen Del Duca followed up what had been the worst election result in provincial Liberal history.
I am resigning as the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party.
With its second worst result, just 8 seats and another resignation.
I informed our party president of my decision to step down from the leadership of our party.
It's all got these Ontario Liberals and others wondering where the party goes from here.
I don't think we can minimize what happened. We have lost 2 elections very badly. And I do worry about becoming irrelevant, to the people of Ontario or not being seen as a party that can win.
Andrea Barrick says the party's purpose has become a little unclear.
Certainly through the campaign, we moved very far left. And as a person who joined the Liberal Party because I believed in a strong centrist party in the province, I think we do need to really think about what is it that we stand for.
Yet there are other Liberals who believe shifting rightward politically would be a mistake.
I don't think that this past election on June 2nd was Ontario voters saying we don't want a progressive Liberal Party. It was Ontario voters saying you just haven't quite shown us yet that you're really different from the previous era.
I am. There does seem to be broad consensus among Ontario Liberals on one thing, that the party should not rush into picking a replacement for Del Duca.
We need to revitalize the party. And that doesn't start with picking a leader, it ends with it.
Well, thank you so very much.
There are also Liberals calling for generational change, not just with the leader, but also the party brass.
Because we want to build a new party, not just rebuild what might have worked in the 80s or the early 2000s. This is a different time, and it's going to require a different way of thinking.
Thank you so very much. Really appreciate it.
Not only are the Ontario Liberals searching for a new leader, they've got some political soul searching ahead as well. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Some of Toronto's most recognizable names are getting the celebrity treatment. They are being honored with streets named after them.
They have made their mark through their life's work, be it in sports, the art, architecture and design, the law, or volunteering.
The 8 new street names are part of a new 60-acre development at Don Mills Crossing that will feature residential, office, and retail buildings alongside parks and a new community center. Some of the honorees include Toronto Raptors champion Kyle Lowry, former Maple Leaf star Mike Palmentier, hockey coach Joe D'Angelo, lawyer and community volunteer Marjorie Hiley, author and musician Paul Quarrington, Olympian Steve Poborski, and renowned architect Raymond Moriyama. Another street was named Champions Road in honor of the 2019 Toronto Raptors championship winning team. A new space aimed at helping the Toronto District School Board tackle anti-Black racism officially opened its doors tonight at Winston Churchill Collegiate. The board says the Centre of Excellence for Black Student Achievement is the first of its kind in Canada. The centre had been operating virtually over the last year while undergoing construction. Tally Ricci has more from tonight's grand opening.
Those who attended the opening of the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement say it was a moment worth celebrating.
Not fitting in might be a problem that some Black students face. So, programs like this that are able to help Black students meet with other Black students, builds their confidence.
It actually means a lot to see this place is actually embracing Black people.
This wing at Winston Churchill Collegiate Institute will now be home to mentorships, community partnerships, and resources.
It could be dance, it could be visual art, it could be spoken word, you name it.
The center is part of the TDSB's response to dismantle anti-Black racism within the school board. It reached a tipping point last year when the board said in its annual report that it had a serious racism problem. The center's goal is to educate staff and students, give Black students the tools they need to advocate for themselves, and also help affirm their identity.
How do we make sure that the curriculum looks like students so they can see themselves? So then they feel like they belong in schools. How do we make sure that students are able to have the language to, when they notice hatred or racism, to engage?
And actually having a physical hub that is, invested in community and students and their well-being and their academic achievement is just a phenomenal experience. So this moment is a proud one for me. It's also a beautiful thing to be on this side of history.
For students who plan to spend time here, the hope is the benefits outlast their education.
I believe that there is a severe lack of opportunities for Black students, and it's only been very recently that there's been an increase in these things, and I think that something like this is almost monumental.
This center actually makes me want to be myself, and everybody will accept it. No judgment, nothing. It's just genuine love.
The board says some of the first in-person programs happening at the center will get underway this week. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, we'll see the temperatures rising over the next couple of days.
Yeah, that's what we're going to experience, Kelda. So the temperatures come up tomorrow, but not so much the humidity. Then as we start getting towards mid and late week, we're going to be seeing both really on the rise. Tonight, it's just the split pattern with the active weather in southwestern Ontario, but the drier conditions from the Golden Horseshoe and eastward. A nice looking Tuesday. It'll just take longer to get there because there'll be some cloud cover for Windsor through towards Chatham, Kent, and through Leamington, through that region, but you'll get there too by the afternoon. And then there comes that heat. The dew point's really comfortable today, comfortable air, that will be changing. So just looking at some of the active weather through tonight. So one batch kind of going through, still more to come on the backside with this. A lot of it stateside, but still some of it slipping over the international border as well. And some of those winds quite gusty at times, but a lot of lightning strikes associated with some of these clusters that are through there as well. So into Tuesday, seeing that cloud cover in a few areas there, it's going to be a little stubborn, but elsewhere, not really clouds to be found. Now, late day, like into the evening hours, early evening, a slight chance kind of as we get to the east of the downtown core and certainly into eastern Ontario of getting some wet weather coming through. You kind of see that risk. But this is more so into Wednesday. We'll have that ride through sort of mid-morning to midday across the Golden Horseshoe. And so some wet weather certainly Wednesday. Look for that. And then Thursday, the risk of some active weather in terms of some strong thunderstorms because of the heat and humidity, and then some cooler, drier air that will be moving in. Some of the gustier winds for tonight, those will ease by tomorrow there for the Windsor area. A look at some of your temperatures in terms of what you're talking about, mid to upper teens. With some of those windier conditions, more comfortable sleeping weather all around the Golden Horseshoe, and then just a quick look at how that heat will be building. And keep in mind also seeing that humidity coming up with those values getting close to 40 as we get towards mid and end of the week, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Colette. Finally tonight, a disappointment for a royal family fan in Warkworth, Ontario turned into a good deed for the community. Bruce Brown is known around town for his pottery skills. He wanted to send a mug to the Queen in honor of her Platinum Jubilee, but learned he wasn't able to. So instead, he raffled off his masterpiece to give back to people in need.
So Bruce has always lived in Warkworth. He's grown up in Warkworth. If anybody needs help, Bruce is there before they even realize they need help. So he's cutting people's grass, he's shoveling people's walks.
So I have this mug there for you.
Okay.
You like that one?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
So we've known Bruce since we've been here, 18 years. At some point back in 2008, he wanted to do something for somebody's wedding, and so he asked if he could paint something on a mug.
I like doing this for fun, like doing this in the summertime and winter, doing both. That's why I do it for like their wedding gifts. That's why I do it for their years with their wedding gifts. They didn't know they're doing this for them. They didn't know it yet. That's why I want to surprise them. Just make them smile on their face. And that's like doing it. I like doing it. It's more fun.
And he had this idea that he wanted to send a mug to Queen Elizabeth for her Platinum Jubilee.
That mug, that's why I did that. Her birthday, that's last month ago now. Last weekend, that's why I did that one. She didn't know I was doing this for her.
After a little bit of research, we realized that we couldn't send her a mug. She doesn't accept gifts. So we decided that we would raffle off a Bruce Brown original mug and donate the money in her honor to the local food bank.
Everybody is really happy when they get a mug, and they feel honored that he did something for them. I've had people ask me if there's any way I can put in a good word for them to get a mug made, and so that's kind of fun.
I don't know, kind of Bruce mug, that's what it's called.
A Bruce mug?
Yep. Yep, that's all it's called now.
Bruce decided to hand out tickets for free, at the same time collect money for the food bank so that anybody who wanted to get a ticket was able to get a ticket. And that's kind of how Bruce works.
So what's more fun, making the mug or giving it to the person?
Give the person.
What are people's reactions to you when you give them the mug?
Well, just smile, hugs and all that stuff. Her face just went smile, saw that mug. She didn't know she wouldn't get it, surprised her. Her face, big smile, just big like this.
So Bruce raised $1,182 for our local food bank.
I do it for this community. Yeah. I like doing it. For this little small town. I like doing it. I like doing it.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can get caught up anytime. Just head to cbc.ca/Toronto. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.